What if the pain you are experiencing right now is not your destruction, but your preparation? What if every rejection, every loss, and every moment of suffering is life quietly shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and unshakable? Why does life break some people completely, while others emerge from suffering more powerful than ever before? The Buddha revealed a truth most people never understand. Life knows exactly when to break you, and more importantly, life knows when to rebuild you into something greater. 1. Life breaks you to free you from illusions. Most of the suffering you experience does not come only from what happens to you, but from what you expected would never happen. Your mind quietly creates stories about how life should be. You believe certain people will always stay by your side. You believe certain relationships will never change. You believe your plans will unfold exactly as you imagined. These beliefs feel safe, and they give you comfort, but they are often based on assumptions, not reality. The Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent. People change, situations change. Circumstances change, nothing remains exactly the same forever. When you become deeply attached to the idea that something will last forever, you create a hidden vulnerability inside yourself. And when life eventually changes, that attachment turns into pain. When life breaks you, it is often breaking these false expectations. It is forcing you to see what was always true, but difficult to accept. It removes the illusion of control and shows you that many things were never truly in your hands. This can feel terrifying at first, because illusions create a sense of stability. Without them, you may feel lost and uncertain. But this breaking also opens your eyes. You begin to see reality more honestly. You begin to understand that your peace cannot depend on things that are temporary. You realize that people, approval, and external success were never stable foundations for your happiness. This realization may hurt, but it also begins to free you. You stop relying on fragile things for your emotional stability. You stop building your identity on things that can disappear. You begin to build your strength from within, where nothing external can take it away. The Buddha taught that true peace comes when you stop clinging to illusions and accept the changing nature of life. When illusions fall apart, truth takes their place. And truth, even when painful, gives you a stronger and more stable foundation than illusion ever could. 2. Suffering is life's way of awakening your inner strength. Before suffering enters your life, you often do not realize how strong you truly are. When everything is comfortable, your strength remains hidden because it is never tested. You move through life depending on routines, familiar people, and predictable outcomes. You believe you are strong, but that strength has never been fully challenged. The Buddha taught that comfort can keep a person asleep, while difficulty has the power to awaken them. Suffering enters your life not to destroy you, but to reveal the deeper strength that was always inside you, waiting to be discovered. When you go through pain, loss, or disappointment, you are forced to face emotions and situations you never wanted to face. At first, it feels unbearable. You may feel weak, exhausted, or broken. But slowly, without realizing it, something inside you begins to change. You start learning how to endure emotional pain. You begin learning how to survive without the things you once depended on. You begin learning how to stand alone. Each difficult moment quietly strengthens your mind. Each painful experience increases your emotional endurance. Over time, you become different. Situations that once would have destroyed your peace no longer have the same power over you. You become calmer, more patient, and more aware. You stop reacting impulsively because suffering has taught you understanding. The Buddha himself went through deep suffering before reaching enlightenment. His pain did not weaken him, it awakened him. In the same way, your suffering is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. One day, You will look back and realize that the pain you feared was actually the force that built your inner strength and prepared you for a greater version of yourself. 3. When everything falls apart, your true self begins to emerge. As long as your life is stable and comfortable, it is very easy to live without ever discovering who you truly are. You follow routines that feel safe. You play roles that others expect from you. You become the version of yourself that keeps peace, avoids conflict, and maintains approval. Without realizing it, you slowly build your identity around external things, such as your relationships, your success, your plans, and the expectations of others. You begin to believe that this version of yourself is your true self. But in reality, much of it is shaped by comfort, fear, and attachment. The Buddha taught that most people live in a state of unconscious identification, meaning they do not truly know themselves beyond the surface of their roles and attachments. When everything begins to fall apart, those external supports start to disappear. The relationship that gave you emotional security ends. The plan you trusted collapses. The people you depended on walk away. The future you imagined no longer exists. At first, this feels like your entire identity is being destroyed. You feel lost, empty, and uncertain. You no longer know who you are without those things. This is one of the most painful experiences a human being can go through, because it feels like you are losing yourself. But in truth, you are not losing yourself. You are losing the false versions of yourself that were built on temporary foundations. When everything external is stripped away, you are left with nothing but your inner self. There are no distractions left to hide behind. There are no illusions left to protect your ego. You are forced to sit with yourself, to face your fears, your pain, your insecurities, and your truth. This process is uncomfortable, but it is also deeply transformative. For the first time, you begin to see yourself clearly, without the influence of others' expectations or external validation. The Buddha taught that awakening begins when a person stops identifying with temporary things and begins observing their true nature. When your life falls apart, it removes the masks you were wearing. It removes the identities you were attached to. It removes the false sense of control you believed you had, and in that emptiness, something new begins to form. You begin to discover strength you never knew you had. You begin to develop independence that does not rely on others. You begin to build emotional stability from within instead of depending on external comfort. You stop chasing approval because you realize your worth was never dependent on others' opinions. You stop fearing loneliness because you begin to feel complete within yourself. This is the birth of your true self. Your true self is not fragile like the identity built on external things. It is not easily shaken by rejection, loss, or change. It is calm, aware, and grounded. It understands that life is constantly changing, and it no longer resists that truth. Instead of clinging to what is temporary, your true self learns to remain steady through change. This transformation does not happen instantly. It happens slowly, through pain, reflection, and acceptance. Every difficult experience removes another layer of illusion. Every moment of suffering brings you closer to your authentic self. You begin to live with greater awareness, greater clarity, and greater emotional freedom. One day, you will look back at the moment when everything fell apart, and you will realize it was not the end of your life. It was the beginning of your awakening. It was the moment when life stopped supporting the false version of you and began revealing the real one. Life did not destroy you, it revealed you. 4. Pain is temporary, but the wisdom it creates is permanent. When you are in the middle of deep emotional pain, it often feels like it will never end. Your mind tells you that this suffering is permanent. Every day feels heavy. Every moment feels difficult. You wake up with the same emptiness, the same sadness, the same unanswered questions. It becomes hard to imagine a future where you feel peaceful again. This is one of the greatest illusions pain creates. It makes itself feel endless, even though the Buddha taught that nothing in this world is permanent. Everything that arises eventually fades, including suffering. Pain is like a storm. When you are inside it, you cannot see the clear sky. All you see are dark clouds, strong winds, and chaos. But storms never last forever. Slowly, quietly, they pass. The sky clears, the light returns. In the same way, your pain will not remain forever, even if it feels permanent right now. Your emotions are constantly changing. Your mind is constantly healing. Your heart is constantly adapting, even when you do not notice it. The Buddha called this truth impermanence. He taught that understanding impermanence is the key to freedom from suffering. When you realize that your pain is temporary, you stop feeling trapped by it. You stop believing that this moment defines your entire future. Instead, you begin to see your suffering as a phase, not a life sentence. But while pain itself is temporary, the wisdom it creates stays with you forever. Pain changes the way you see the world. Before suffering, you may have taken things for granted. You may not have understood the value of peace, stability, or emotional strength. But after experiencing pain, you develop a deeper awareness. You become more careful about where you invest your energy. You become more aware of what truly matters. You stop chasing things that do not bring real fulfillment. Pain teaches you lessons that comfort never could. It teaches you patience because healing takes time. It teaches you emotional independence because you learn how to stand on your own. It teaches you awareness because you begin to see reality more clearly. These lessons become permanent parts of who you are. You also develop compassion. When you have suffered deeply, you begin to understand the pain of others. You become less judgmental and more understanding. You realize that everyone is carrying invisible struggles. This wisdom makes you emotionally mature. It makes you calmer and more grounded. The Buddha himself experienced suffering before reaching enlightenment. His pain was not meaningless. It gave him understanding. It gave him clarity. It gave him wisdom that could not be learned through comfort alone. In the same way, your suffering is shaping you. It is teaching you truths about life, about yourself, and about reality. Over time, you will notice that the pain fades, but the strength remains. The sadness fades, but the wisdom stays. The suffering fades, but the awareness remains. You become someone who cannot be easily shaken because your wisdom is rooted in real experience. One day, you will face challenges that once would have broken you, and you will remain calm. Not because life became easier, but because you became wiser. You will understand that pain is not permanent, and you will trust your ability to endure and heal. This is the hidden gift of suffering. It leaves behind wisdom that becomes your inner protection for the rest of your life. 5. Life removes what is not meant for you. One of the most painful experiences in life is losing something you deeply wanted to keep. It may be a person you loved, a relationship you trusted, an opportunity you worked hard for, or a future you believed was certain. When these things are suddenly taken away, it feels like life is being unfair to you. It feels like something valuable has been stolen from your hands. Your mind fills with questions. You wonder why this happened. You wonder what you did wrong. You wonder why life would allow you to build something meaningful only to take it away. This pain is real, and it cuts deeply because attachment creates emotional roots inside you. The Buddha taught that attachment itself is not wrong, but unconscious attachment to impermanent things creates suffering. When you believe something must stay forever in order for you to be happy, you unknowingly give your peace to something outside your control. And when life removes that thing, it feels like your peace has been taken away. But what you do not see in that moment is that life often removes things for reasons your current mind cannot yet understand. Sometimes what you lose was quietly limiting your growth. Sometimes what you lose was keeping you emotionally dependent. Sometimes what you lose was preventing you from discovering your true strength. But because it felt familiar, because it felt comfortable, you could not see its hidden limitations. Life sees the full path ahead, while you only see the present moment. And sometimes, life must remove what is comfortable in order to make space for what is necessary. The Buddha taught that clinging to things that are not aligned with your true path creates prolonged suffering. When something is not meant to remain in your life, holding on to it only delays your growth. Life does not remove things to punish you. Life removes things to free you. At first, removal feels like rejection. You may feel abandoned, unwanted, or unworthy. You may believe that you lost because you were not good enough. But over time, as you begin to heal, your perspective slowly changes. You begin to see things more clearly. You begin to realize that what you lost was not as stable or perfect as you once believed. You begin to see the hidden weaknesses, the hidden imbalances, and the hidden emotional dependence that existed. You begin to understand that what was removed was not your foundation. It was only something you leaned on temporarily. This realization is powerful because it helps you reclaim your inner strength. You stop believing that your stability depends on external things. You begin to understand that your true foundation must exist within you. You begin to build emotional independence. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. The Buddha taught that true peace comes when you stop resisting the natural flow of life. Life is constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly removing and replacing things. When you resist this process, you suffer more, but when you accept it, you begin to move with life instead of against it. Sometimes, life removes people because their role in your journey is complete. They were meant to teach you something, to help you grow, to help you evolve, but they were never meant to stay forever. Their presence was temporary, even if the lessons they gave you were permanent. Sometimes, life removes opportunities because they were not aligned with your deeper purpose. They may have seemed important at the time, but they were not leading you toward your true growth. Life closes certain doors so that you do not remain trapped in paths that limit your potential. Sometimes, life removes comfort because comfort can quietly weaken your spirit. When everything is easy, you stop growing, you stop evolving, you stop discovering your deeper capabilities. Difficulty forces you to expand. It forces you to become stronger. In the moment of loss, you cannot see these truths clearly. Your mind focuses only on what is gone. But with time, healing brings clarity. You begin to see that removal was not destruction. It was redirection. You begin to meet new people who align with your growth. You begin to discover new opportunities that strengthen you. You begin to develop a deeper relationship with yourself. You begin to feel stronger, calmer, and more complete. You realize that life did not take everything from you. It only took what was not meant to remain. The Buddha taught that acceptance is the key to freedom. When you accept that life removes things for your growth, you stop seeing loss as punishment. You begin to see it as preparation. You begin to trust that life is guiding you towards something greater. One day, you will look back at what you lost, and instead of feeling pain, you will feel gratitude. You will realize that if those things had remained, you would never have become the person you are today. You would never have discovered your strength. You would never have awakened to your true self. Life removes what is not meant for you, not to leave you empty, but to prepare you to receive what truly belongs in your life. 6. Your breaking point is the beginning of your transformation. There comes a moment in life when you feel like you cannot endure any more pain. Your mind feels exhausted from overthinking. Your heart feels heavy from carrying too much emotional weight. Your spirit feels tired from fighting battles that never seem to end. This is the moment people often call their breaking point. It feels like the end of your strength. It feels like something inside you has finally given up. You may feel empty, lost, and disconnected from the person you used to be. Even the smallest things feel difficult, and you begin to question how much more you can handle. But what you do not realize in that moment is that your breaking point is not the end of your strength, it is the end of your old identity. It is the moment when the version of you that was built on illusions, attachments, and emotional dependence begins to dissolve. The Buddha taught that transformation begins when a person stops clinging to what they were and becomes open to what they can become. Your breaking point forces this process to begin. It removes the false sense of control you once believed you had. It removes the expectations that were silently controlling your peace. It removes the emotional attachments that were keeping you dependent on things outside yourself. This process is painful because your mind resists change. The mind prefers what is familiar, even if it is unhealthy. It prefers the known over the unknown. But life does not allow you to remain the same forever. Growth requires change, and change often begins with discomfort. At your breaking point, something important begins to happen inside you. You stop pretending to be strong for others. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to control everything. You stop holding on to things that are clearly falling apart. This surrender is not weakness. It is the beginning of inner freedom. When you stop resisting reality, your mind begins to calm down. You begin to see things more clearly. You begin to understand that much of your suffering came from trying to force things to stay the same. You begin to accept that life is constantly changing, and that resistance only creates more pain. This acceptance creates space for transformation. Slowly, you begin to rebuild yourself, but this time on a stronger foundation. You begin to rely less on external validation and more on your inner stability. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to develop emotional independence. You no longer need constant reassurance from others to feel secure. Your breaking point also teaches you emotional endurance. You realize that even after experiencing deep pain, you are still here. You survived what you once believed would destroy you. This realization changes your perception of yourself. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You begin to see yourself as resilient. The Buddha taught that suffering has the power to awaken awareness. Before suffering, your mind may have been distracted by comfort and routine. But after suffering, your awareness becomes sharper. You begin to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You begin to understand your emotions instead of being overwhelmed by them. You become calmer in situations that once would have triggered you. You become more patient because you understand that everything is temporary. You become less attached because you understand that clinging creates suffering. This is transformation. Transformation does not mean you become someone completely different. It means you become more aligned with your true nature. You stop living unconsciously. You stop depending on temporary things for your peace. You begin to live with awareness, acceptance, and inner stability. Your breaking point also removes fear. When you have already experienced deep pain, you are no longer afraid of small losses or small disappointments. You understand that you can survive difficulty. This creates inner courage. You begin to live with more confidence, not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. One of the most powerful truths the Buddha taught is that awakening often begins with suffering. Without suffering, many people remain asleep, living unconsciously, never discovering their true strength. But suffering forces you to wake up. It forces you to see reality clearly. It forces you to grow. Over time, you begin to feel different. The pain that once controlled your mind loses its power. The fears that once controlled your decisions begin to fade. You become more present, more aware, and more peaceful. You realize that your breaking point was not your destruction, it was your rebirth. Life did not break you to end your story. Life broke you to begin a new chapter, one where you are stronger, wiser, and no longer controlled by fear, attachment, or illusion. 7. Life knows when you have suffered enough. There comes a silent moment in every person's life when the suffering that once felt endless begins to lose its grip. It does not happen suddenly, and it does not arrive with noise or announcement. It arrives quietly, like the first light of dawn after a long and unbearable night. For so long, you carried pain that felt heavier than your own body. You endured days where your mind would not rest, and nights where your heart refused to feel peace. You questioned yourself. You questioned life. You wondered if things would ever change, or if suffering was simply your permanent reality. But the Buddha taught that suffering is not permanent. He taught that all things in existence follow the law of impermanence. Pain arises and pain fades. Darkness appears and darkness disappears. Nothing remains the same forever, no matter how permanent it feels in the moment. Your suffering, no matter how deep, is not an eternal sentence. It is a temporary phase in the long journey of your awakening. When you are inside suffering, it feels like life has forgotten you. It feels like everyone else is moving forward while you remain stuck in the same emotional prison. You watch others smile, grow, and live peacefully, while you quietly fight battles no one else can see. This isolation makes the suffering feel even heavier. You begin to believe that perhaps life is unfair, or that perhaps you are simply meant to carry more pain than others. But life is not punishing you, life is preparing you. The Buddha taught that suffering has a purpose. It breaks down the illusions you once believed in. It removes attachments that were weakening your spirit. It forces you to confront truths you were not ready to face. It strips away the false sense of security that kept you dependent on temporary things. This process is painful, but it is necessary for awakening. Without suffering, many people remain asleep, living unconsciously, never discovering their true strength. At first, suffering feels like destruction. It feels like something inside you is being taken away. And in truth, something is being taken away. But it is not your strength. It is not your worth. It is not your future. What is being taken away is your illusion of control, your illusion of permanence, your illusion that your peace depends on things outside yourself. These illusions must break so that your true foundation can be built. During your suffering, something important begins to grow quietly inside you. Your mind becomes stronger. Your emotional endurance increases. You begin to develop awareness. You begin to see life differently. You begin to understand that everything is temporary and that clinging to temporary things only creates more pain. Even though you may not notice it at first, you are becoming more resilient. Situations that once would have destroyed you no longer have the same power. You begin to observe your emotions instead of being controlled by them. You begin to accept change instead of resisting it. You begin to find stability within yourself instead of searching for it outside. This is the transformation that suffering creates. There comes a point where life sees that you have learned the lesson. Life sees that your awareness has grown. Life sees that your strength has been formed. Life sees that your spirit has endured enough. And slowly, quietly, things begin to change. The pain does not disappear instantly, but it begins to lose its intensity. The emotional storms become less violent. The heaviness in your heart begins to feel lighter. The thoughts that once haunted your mind begin to lose their control over you. You begin to breathe more easily. You begin to feel moments of peace again. This is not an accident. This is life responding to your transformation. The Buddha taught that after suffering comes awakening. Awakening does not mean your life becomes perfect. It means your relationship with life changes. You no longer depend on external things for your peace. You no longer fear loss in the same way. You no longer panic when things change. You understand that change is natural. You understand that suffering was never your enemy. It was your teacher. Life begins to open new doors when you are ready. Opportunities appear when you least expect them. You meet people who align with your growth. You find clarity where there was once confusion. You find peace where there was once chaos. This happens because you are no longer the same person you were before. The version of you that entered suffering was different from the version of you that emerges from it. You are stronger now. You are wiser now. You are more aware now. You are no longer easily shaken by temporary events. You have seen pain, and you have survived it. You have faced darkness, and you have endured it. This creates a deep inner confidence that cannot be taken away. You stop fearing the future because you trust your ability to handle whatever comes. You stop fearing loss because you understand that nothing external defines your worth. You stop fearing loneliness because you have learned how to stand peacefully within yourself. This is true freedom. Many people never reach this level of awareness because they spend their lives avoiding suffering. They distract themselves. They run from discomfort. They cling to illusions. But those who endure suffering and learn from it awaken to a deeper truth about life. The Buddha himself endured suffering before reaching enlightenment. He experienced loss, uncertainty, and emotional struggle. But he did not run from suffering. He observed it. He learned from it. He allowed it to transform him. And through that transformation, he discovered peace. Your suffering is part of the same process. Life knows exactly how much pressure is needed to transform you. Just as fire strengthens steel, suffering strengthens your spirit. But life does not apply pressure forever. Once the transformation is complete, the pressure begins to ease. You begin to feel peace, not because your life became perfect, but because you became stronger than your circumstances. You begin to realize that everything you went through was shaping you. Every loss taught you independence. Every disappointment taught you awareness. Every moment of pain taught you endurance. Nothing was meaningless. Life knows when you have suffered enough, and when that moment comes, it begins to guide you toward peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on perfect conditions, but the deep peace that exists within you regardless of what happens outside. This peace cannot be taken away because it was built through experience. One day, you will look back at your suffering, and you will no longer feel anger. You will no longer feel broken. You will feel understanding. You will see that your suffering was not your destruction. It was your preparation. It was the process through which your true strength was revealed. Life did not abandon you. Life was shaping you. And now, you are ready for something greater. 8. Your suffering was not a detour. It was the path itself. There is a painful belief that many people carry deep inside their hearts, and that belief is that their suffering has delayed their life. They believe that while others were moving forward, building happiness, finding success, and living peacefully, they were left behind, trapped in pain. They believe their suffering was a detour, a mistake, or a wasted chapter that stole time from their true life. They look at their past and see only loss, only struggle, only darkness. They ask themselves why their path was harder, why their journey was heavier, and why life forced them to endure so much. But the Buddha taught something that completely changes this perspective. He taught that suffering is not separate from the path. Suffering is the path itself. Your suffering was not delaying your life, it was shaping it. Every moment of pain you endured was quietly building something inside you that could not have been built any other way. Every disappointment was teaching you detachment. Every loss was teaching you inner independence. Every moment of loneliness was teaching you how to stand on your own without depending on external comfort. Even though it felt like you were falling behind, you were actually being prepared. Most people build their lives on unstable foundations. They build their identity on relationships, on approval, on success, and on external validation. But these things are temporary. When they disappear, those people feel completely destroyed because their inner foundation was never strong. But your suffering forced you to build something deeper. It forced you to build inner strength. It forced you to build emotional endurance. It forced you to discover stability within yourself instead of relying on the outside world. You were being trained, even when you did not realize it. You were being prepared for a level of awareness and resilience that comfort could never teach. The Buddha explained that suffering awakens wisdom. Without suffering, the mind remains asleep, chasing temporary pleasures and avoiding deeper truths. But suffering forces you to confront reality. It forces you to see the impermanent nature of everything. It forces you to understand that nothing external can guarantee permanent peace. This realization may feel painful, but it is also incredibly liberating. When you stop believing that your peace depends on external things, you stop fearing loss in the same way. You stop clinging so tightly. You stop trying to control everything. You begin to flow with life instead of fighting it. You begin to trust that even when things fall apart, you will remain whole. Your suffering also changed your heart. It made you more compassionate. When you see others struggling, you understand their pain without judgment. You no longer see suffering as weakness. You see it as part of the human experience. This compassion is a form of wisdom. It connects you to others in a deeper and more meaningful way. The person you were before your suffering and the person you are now are not the same. Before, you may have been more dependent on external stability. Before, you may have been more easily shaken by rejection, disappointment, or uncertainty. But now, you have seen pain. You have endured it. You have survived it. This creates a quiet confidence inside you. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to understand that no matter what happens, you have the strength to endure it. This trust becomes your inner foundation. It cannot be taken away by loss, rejection, or change. Many people spend their entire lives trying to avoid suffering, but those who go through suffering and awaken from it gain something far greater than comfort. They gain awareness. They gain clarity. They gain freedom from illusions. You are no longer easily controlled by fear. You are no longer easily attached to temporary things. You understand that everything comes and goes, and this understanding makes you emotionally free. The Buddha called this liberation. Liberation does not mean you never experience pain again. It means pain no longer controls you. It means you no longer define yourself by your suffering. It means you understand that suffering was never your enemy. It was your teacher. When you look back at your suffering, you begin to see it differently. You begin to see that it was guiding you, not punishing you. It was removing illusions. It was strengthening your mind. It was preparing you for a deeper level of peace. Without your suffering, you would not be who you are today. Without your suffering, you would not have this level of awareness. Without your suffering, you would not have discovered your true strength. Life was not delaying you. Life was developing you. Every painful moment was part of your preparation. Every difficult chapter was shaping your character. Every moment of darkness was teaching you how to create your own light. The Buddha taught that the lotus flower grows in mud. Without the mud, the lotus cannot exist. In the same way, your suffering was the mud that allowed your inner strength and wisdom to grow. It was not separate from your growth. It was the source of your growth. Now, you are no longer the same person who entered suffering. You are stronger, you are wiser, you are more aware. You are less attached to illusions, you are more grounded in reality. You begin to live differently. You stop chasing things that do not bring true peace. You stop depending on others to complete you. You stop fearing change because you understand that change is part of life. You begin to trust the process of life. You realize that nothing you went through was meaningless. Your suffering was not a detour. It was the path itself. It was the path that led you back to yourself. It was the path that awakened your strength. It was the path that freed you from illusions. And now, because of everything you endured, you are no longer fragile. You are awake. 9. The moment you stop resisting, peace begins to enter your life. One of the deepest sources of human suffering is not the pain itself, but the resistance to the pain. When something painful happens, your mind immediately begins to fight against reality. You replay the past again and again, wishing things had happened differently. You ask yourself endless questions. Why did this happen to me? Why did they leave? Why did I lose this? Why is my life like this? Your mind refuses to accept what has already happened. It clings to what was and rejects what is. This resistance creates an inner conflict, and that conflict becomes a prison. The Buddha taught that suffering has two layers. The first layer is the pain itself, which is natural and unavoidable. The second layer is the resistance to that pain, which is created by the mind. It is this resistance that prolongs suffering. It is this resistance that keeps the wound open. It is this resistance that prevents healing. When something painful happens, the mind tries to protect itself by holding on to the past. It believes that by replaying events, by analyzing every detail, it can somehow regain control. But this only deepens the suffering. The past cannot be changed. No amount of thinking can rewrite what has already happened. Yet the mind continues to resist, because acceptance feels like surrender, and surrender feels like weakness. But in truth, acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is strength. Acceptance does not mean you approve of what happened. It does not mean you wanted the pain. It does not mean the experience was fair. Acceptance simply means you stop fighting reality. It means you acknowledge that this moment exists, and you allow yourself to move forward instead of remaining trapped in what cannot be changed. The Buddha taught that peace begins the moment resistance ends. When you stop resisting, something inside you begins to relax. The constant tension inside your mind begins to fade. The endless cycle of overthinking begins to slow down. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control what is uncontrollable. You begin to conserve your energy instead of wasting it on mental battles you cannot win. This does not happen instantly. At first, your mind may continue to return to old thoughts and old pain. This is natural. The mind has been conditioned to cling, to resist, and to control. But slowly, with awareness, you begin to observe these thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You begin to notice that thoughts are temporary. They arise and they pass. They do not define you. They are not permanent. The more you observe them without attachment, the less power they have over you. You also begin to understand that life was never meant to be controlled. Life is constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly transforming. Trying to control everything is like trying to stop the ocean waves. It is impossible, and the attempt itself creates exhaustion. The Buddha taught that suffering decreases when you align yourself with the natural flow of life instead of resisting it. When you stop resisting, healing begins. Your mind begins to clear. Your emotions begin to stabilize. You begin to see situations more objectively instead of through the lens of pain. You begin to understand that your suffering was not permanent. It was a moment, not your entire existence. You also begin to reconnect with the present moment. Suffering often traps you in the past or makes you fear the future. But peace exists only in the present. When you stop resisting, your attention returns to the present moment. You begin to notice simple things again, the sound of your breath, the calmness of silence, the feeling of being alive. You begin to realize that even after everything you went through, you are still here. You survived. This realization creates inner strength. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to trust your ability to endure and heal. You no longer see yourself as fragile. You see yourself as resilient. The Buddha explained that peace is not something you find outside yourself. It is something that emerges when the mind stops fighting reality. Many people believe peace will come when their external problems disappear. They believe peace will come when life becomes perfect. But life is never perfect. There will always be change. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be challenges. True peace does not come from controlling life. It comes from accepting life. When you accept life as it is, you stop creating unnecessary suffering. You stop expecting permanence in an impermanent world. You stop attaching your happiness to temporary conditions. This acceptance gives you freedom. You begin to move through life with greater calmness. You stop reacting impulsively to every challenge. You stop fearing loss in the same way. You understand that even when things change, you will remain whole. This is emotional maturity. This is inner stability. This is awakening. You begin to see that suffering was not your enemy. It was showing you where you were attached. It was showing you where you were resisting reality. It was guiding you toward acceptance. Once you learn this lesson, suffering loses its power over you. You begin to experience moments of peace, even in difficult circumstances. You begin to feel calm without needing external validation. You begin to feel complete without needing constant reassurance from others. This is true inner peace. It does not depend on perfect conditions. It does not depend on external stability. It comes from within. The Buddha taught that freedom is not freedom from pain. Freedom is freedom from resistance to pain. When you stop resisting, you stop fighting life. When you stop fighting life, you stop fighting yourself. And in that moment, peace begins to enter your life quietly, naturally, and permanently. You realize that peace was never something you needed to chase. It was something you needed to allow. 10. After the darkest period of your life, you are not the same person anymore. There is a silent transformation that happens to a person after they have endured deep suffering. It is not something others can always see, but you can feel it within yourself. After going through pain that shook your heart, after facing moments where you felt completely broken, after surviving days where you thought you would never feel peace again, something inside you changes permanently. You are no longer the same person you once were. Before suffering, you may have lived with a certain innocence. You trusted easily. You depended on people, situations, and plans to give you stability. You believed that if you did the right things, life would remain predictable. You believed that the things you loved would stay forever. But suffering shattered that illusion. It showed you that life is unpredictable. It showed you that everything external can change without warning. At first, this realization created fear. It made you feel unsafe. It made you question everything you believed. But over time, this same realization became the source of your strength. The Buddha taught that awakening often begins when illusion ends. When illusion ends, truth begins. And truth, even when painful, creates clarity. After suffering, you begin to see life more clearly. You no longer assume that everything will remain the same. You no longer depend entirely on external stability for your emotional peace. You begin to understand that true stability must come from within you. This understanding changes the way you live. You become more aware of your thoughts and emotions. You no longer react impulsively to every situation. You observe before you respond. You become calmer, not because life became easier, but because your mind became stronger. You also become more emotionally independent. Before suffering, you may have needed constant reassurance from others. You may have needed approval to feel secure, but suffering forced you to stand alone. It forced you to face your fears without relying on external comfort. And through that experience, you discovered that you are capable of surviving on your own. This discovery creates deep inner confidence. You realize that even if people leave, you will still be whole. Even if situations change, you will still remain stable. Even if life becomes difficult again, you have the strength to endure it. This confidence is not loud, it is quiet, it is calm, it is unshakable. Suffering also changes your priorities. Things that once seemed extremely important begin to lose their significance. You stop chasing approval from people who do not value you. You stop investing energy in things that do not bring you peace. You stop trying to control everything. Instead, you begin to value inner peace above all else. You begin to value your mental clarity. You begin to value emotional stability. You begin to value your relationship with yourself. The Buddha taught that attachment to temporary things creates suffering. After experiencing loss, you begin to understand this truth deeply. You no longer cling to things in the same way. You appreciate what you have, but you do not depend on it for your identity. This creates emotional freedom. You are no longer easily controlled by fear of loss. You are no longer easily shaken by rejection. You understand that everything in life is temporary, and this understanding makes you stronger. Suffering also deepens your compassion. When you have experienced pain, you understand the struggles of others more deeply. You no longer judge people quickly. You understand that everyone is carrying invisible burdens. This compassion makes you more patient, more understanding, and more emotionally mature. You also develop resilience. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to continue moving forward despite pain. After suffering, you know what it means to endure. You know what it means to survive difficult moments. This knowledge removes fear from your mind. You stop fearing difficulty in the same way because you have already faced it. The Buddha compared transformation to the process of refining gold. Gold must pass through fire to become pure. Without fire, the impurities remain. In the same way, suffering removes the emotional impurities that once weakened you. It removes illusions, attachments, and fears that were silently controlling your life. What remains is your true self. Your true self is not fragile. It is not easily broken. It is calm, aware, and grounded. After suffering, you also begin to trust life differently. Before, you may have believed that life was supposed to be predictable. Now, you understand that life is unpredictable, and you accept that reality. Instead of trying to control everything, you learn to adapt. Instead of resisting change, you learn to move with it. This acceptance creates peace. You begin to understand that suffering was not meaningless. It was shaping you. It was preparing you. It was guiding you toward a deeper level of awareness. You may not have chosen the suffering, but the suffering created a stronger version of you. One of the most important realizations you gain is that you survived. There was a time when you thought you would never recover. There was a time when you thought the pain would never end, but you are still here. You endured, you healed, you continued. This realization creates unshakable inner strength. You begin to trust yourself more deeply than ever before. The Buddha taught that true strength does not come from avoiding suffering. True strength comes from understanding suffering and rising above it. You are no longer the same person who entered the darkness. You are wiser now. You are stronger now. You are more aware now. You have seen the fragile nature of life, and instead of becoming weaker, you became more grounded. You stopped depending on illusions. You stopped chasing things that cannot last forever. You began building your life on something deeper. You began building your life on inner peace. This is the hidden gift of suffering. It transforms you into someone who is no longer controlled by fear, attachment, or illusion. It transforms you into someone who can face life with calmness and strength. And once this transformation happens, you realize something powerful. The suffering did not destroy you. It revealed who you truly are. 11. What once broke you will one day become the source of your power. There is a time in every person's life when something happens that feels too heavy to carry. It could be a loss that shattered your heart, a betrayal that destroyed your trust, or a period of loneliness that made you question your worth. In that moment, it does not feel like growth. It feels like destruction. It feels like something inside you has been permanently damaged. You may feel weaker than ever before. You may feel like life has taken something from you that can never be returned. But the Buddha taught that within suffering lies the seed of awakening. What feels like your greatest weakness in one chapter of your life can become your greatest strength in another. What once broke you can become the very thing that awakens your inner power. At first, suffering strips away your emotional security. It removes the things you depended on for comfort. It forces you into unfamiliar territory where nothing feels certain. This uncertainty creates fear. It creates confusion. It creates emotional pain. But slowly, as time passes, something unexpected begins to happen. You begin to adapt. Human beings have an incredible ability to heal. Even when your heart feels broken, it does not remain broken forever. Even when your mind feels overwhelmed, it does not remain overwhelmed forever. Healing begins quietly. It begins in small moments. A moment where you realize the pain is not as intense as it once was. A moment where you notice that you are thinking more clearly. A moment where you realize that you survived something you once believed would destroy you. This realization is powerful. You begin to see yourself differently. Before, you may have seen yourself as fragile. You may have believed that you could not survive deep pain. But now, you have evidence that you can endure. You have faced darkness, and you are still standing. This creates inner strength. The Buddha taught that strength does not come from avoiding suffering. Strength comes from understanding suffering. When you understand suffering, it no longer controls you. It no longer defines you. It becomes something you have experienced, not something that owns you. Your suffering also deepens your awareness. Before, you may have moved through life unconsciously, assuming that things would always remain the same, but suffering awakens you. It forces you to see the impermanent nature of everything. It forces you to understand that attachment to temporary things creates vulnerability. This awareness changes how you live. You begin to rely less on external validation. You stop depending entirely on others for your emotional stability. You begin to build strength within yourself instead of searching for it outside. You also develop emotional independence. Emotional independence does not mean you stop caring about others. It means your peace is no longer dependent on others. It means you can remain calm even when external situations change. It means you trust your ability to stand alone when necessary. This is true power. Power is not control over others. Power is control over yourself. Power is the ability to remain calm in difficult situations. Power is the ability to face uncertainty without panic. Power is the ability to endure pain without losing your inner stability. Your suffering teaches you this power. You also begin to lose your fear of pain. Before suffering, pain may have been something you feared deeply. You may have avoided difficult situations to protect yourself. But after experiencing pain and surviving it, your relationship with fear changes. You realize that pain is survivable. This realization removes fear's control over your decisions. You begin to live more freely, you begin to take risks, you begin to trust yourself more deeply. The Buddha taught that fear is often created by attachment. When you are attached to things remaining the same, you fear losing them. But when you understand impermanence, fear begins to fade. You understand that fear is often created by attachment. When you are attached to things remaining the same, you fear losing them. But when you understand impermanence, fear begins to fade. You understand that loss is part of life, and that you have the strength to endure it. Your suffering also creates resilience. Resilience is not something you are born with, it is something you develop through experience. Every difficult moment you survive increases your resilience. Every painful experience strengthens your emotional endurance. Over time, you become someone who cannot be easily broken. Situations that once would have destroyed your peace no longer have the same effect. You become calmer, you become more grounded, you become more aware. You stop reacting impulsively to every challenge. Instead, you observe, you understand, you respond with clarity. This emotional stability is one of the greatest forms of power. The Buddha himself experienced suffering before reaching enlightenment. He experienced loss, uncertainty, and emotional struggle, but he did not allow suffering to destroy him. He allowed suffering to awaken him. In the same way, your suffering is awakening you. It is teaching you lessons that comfort never could. It is showing you your true strength. It is guiding you toward a deeper level of awareness. One day, you will look back at the moments that broke you, and you will see them differently. You will realize that those moments were not the end of your life. They were the beginning of your transformation. You will see that your suffering was not meaningless. It was shaping you. It was strengthening you. It was preparing you. What once broke you will no longer be a source of pain. It will become a source of wisdom. It will become a reminder of your strength. It will become proof that you endured what you thought you could not endure. This creates deep inner confidence. You stop doubting yourself. You stop fearing the future. You trust your ability to handle whatever comes. This is the hidden gift of suffering. It transforms your weakness into strength. It transforms your fear into courage. It transforms your pain into power. And once this transformation happens, nothing external can take it away. Because your power was not given to you by the outside world. It was built within you through everything you endured. You were not destroyed. You were strengthened. 12. Your pain was never wasted. It was building the version of you that cannot be broken. There is a painful thought that often follows deep suffering, and it is the belief that everything you endured was meaningless. You look back at the sleepless nights, the emotional exhaustion, the moments when you felt completely alone, and you wonder why it had to happen. You wonder why life forced you to carry so much weight. You wonder why your heart had to break in ways you never expected. In those moments of reflection, it can feel like your suffering was nothing more than loss, nothing more than damage, nothing more than a chapter that stole something from you. But the Buddha taught that no experience is ever truly wasted if it awakens awareness within you. Your suffering was not meaningless. It was shaping you. It was building a version of you that could not have been created through comfort alone. Comfort does not teach you who you truly are. Comfort allows you to remain the same. It allows you to rely on what is familiar. It allows you to avoid confronting the deeper parts of yourself. But suffering forces you to face yourself without distraction. It forces you to confront your fears, your attachments, and your illusions. It forces you to see reality clearly, even when that clarity is painful. At first, this feels like destruction. It feels like life is taking something away from you. It feels like your identity is collapsing. But what is actually happening is not destruction, it is reconstruction. The Buddha compared transformation to the process of rebuilding after collapse. Before rebuilding can begin, the unstable structure must fall. The parts of your identity that were built on external validation, emotional dependence, and illusion must dissolve. This process is uncomfortable because your mind wants stability, it wants certainty, it wants control. But true stability cannot be built on temporary things. Your suffering removed the parts of your life that were fragile. It exposed the areas where you depended too much on external circumstances for your peace. It showed you where your emotional foundation was weak. This exposure was painful, but it was necessary. Because now you begin to rebuild on something stronger. You begin to build emotional independence. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to rely on your inner strength instead of external comfort. This process happens slowly, often without you realizing it. You begin to notice that things that once deeply hurt you no longer have the same effect. Situations that once would have destroyed your peace no longer shake you in the same way. You begin to observe your emotions instead of being controlled by them. This is growth. Growth does not mean you never feel pain again. Growth means pain no longer defines you. Growth means you understand your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Your suffering also created awareness. Before suffering, you may have moved through life unconsciously. You may have assumed that things would always remain stable. You may have believed that the people and situations in your life would remain unchanged. But suffering awakened you. It showed you the impermanent nature of everything. It showed you that nothing external can guarantee permanent peace. This realization may have been painful, but it was also liberating. Because now you stop depending on temporary things for your sense of security. You begin to find stability within yourself. This inner stability cannot be taken away by loss, rejection, or change. The Buddha taught that true peace comes from detachment, not from possession. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending on things outside yourself for your emotional survival. Your suffering taught you this lesson. It taught you how to stand alone. It taught you how to endure emotional pain. It taught you how to survive uncertainty. These lessons created resilience. Resilience is one of the most powerful qualities a person can develop. It is the ability to endure difficulty without losing your inner stability. It is the ability to continue moving forward even when life feels uncertain. Your suffering strengthened this ability. You also developed emotional depth. When you have experienced deep pain, your understanding of life becomes deeper. You stop seeing life in simple terms of success and failure. You begin to see life as a process of growth and transformation. You become more compassionate toward others. You understand that everyone carries invisible struggles. You stop judging others quickly because you understand how complex human suffering can be. This emotional depth is a form of wisdom. The Buddha taught that wisdom is born from experience. It cannot be learned through comfort alone. It is learned through observation, through reflection, and through endurance. Your suffering gave you this wisdom. It also removed illusions. Before suffering, you may have believed that your identity was defined by your relationships, your success, or your external circumstances. But suffering showed you that your identity exists beyond those things. It showed you that even when external things disappear, you still remain. This realization creates inner freedom. You stop fearing loss in the same way. You stop fearing change in the same way. You understand that your existence is not dependent on temporary conditions. You begin to trust yourself. This trust creates confidence. Not the loud confidence that seeks approval from others, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can endure. You begin to walk through life differently. You are calmer, you are more aware, you are less reactive. You understand that pain is part of life, but you also understand that pain does not last forever. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. Pain arises, and pain fades. Difficulty appears, and difficulty disappears. Your suffering was not permanent. It was a phase. But the strength it created within you is permanent. That strength now becomes part of who you are. It protects you from future suffering. It allows you to face challenges with calmness instead of fear. It allows you to trust your ability to endure. Your suffering also prepared you for a deeper level of peace. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. Peace is the ability to remain calm despite difficulty. Your suffering taught you this ability. It taught you how to find peace within yourself, instead of searching for it outside. Now, you are no longer the same person you were before your suffering. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are more aware. You are no longer easily broken, because life did not waste your pain. Life used your pain to build you into someone unshakable. Your suffering was not meaningless. It was preparation. It was transformation. It was the process through which your true strength was revealed. If you look back at your life, you will see moments where you thought everything was over, moments where you felt completely broken, moments where you believed the pain would never end. In those moments, it felt like life was against you. It felt like life was destroying everything you had built. You may have questioned your strength. You may have questioned your worth. You may have even questioned your purpose. But now, if you look closely, you will begin to see something different. You are still here. Despite everything that tried to break you, you endured. Despite every loss, every disappointment, every moment of darkness, you survived. And not only did you survive, you changed. You became stronger, you became wiser, you became more aware of yourself and of life. The Buddha taught that suffering is not the end of the path. Suffering is the beginning of awakening. Your pain removed illusions that were weakening you. It taught you that nothing external can provide permanent peace. It showed you that true stability must come from within. It forced you to build inner strength instead of depending on fragile external things. It taught you patience. It taught you resilience. It taught you acceptance. Most importantly, it taught you who you truly are. You are not the person who depends on others to feel complete. You are not the person who breaks when life becomes difficult. You are not the person who remains trapped in pain forever. You are someone who endured. You are someone who awakened. You are someone who discovered strength in moments of weakness. Life did not break you to destroy you. Life broke you to rebuild you. Life broke you to remove the false and reveal the real. Life broke you to prepare you for a level of strength, peace, and awareness that comfort alone could never give you. The person you are now is not fragile. The person you are now is not easily shaken. The person you are now understands that everything is temporary, and because of that understanding, you are free. Free from illusions. Free from emotional dependence. Free from the fear that once controlled you. And now you move forward differently. You move forward with awareness. You move forward with calmness. You move forward with inner peace. Trust your journey. Trust your growth.